Miss Collier explains!
Volume of rectangular prisms.
Today, our learning intentions are to understand what the volume of a 3D object is, to know that the common metric units for volume are cubic millimeters, centimeters, meters, and kilometers, to know what a rectangular prism is, and to be able to find the volume of cubes and other rectangular prisms. We will know we are successful when we can find the volume of rectangular prisms. Today, we're going to look at finding the volume of rectangular prisms. Volume in everyday life. Did you know that the Pacific Ocean holds about 700 million cubic kilometers of water? A box is a 3D object. This means that it has a length, a width, and a height. The amount of space that is taken up by a box is called its volume. Just like when we're doing area, we talked about square centimeters, meaning a centimeter by a centimeter in a square. When we're doing volume, we talked about cubed units. So if we were using centimeters, it'd be a centimeter by a centimeter by a centimeter high as well, forming a little cube that is 1 centimeter big. Just like area, when we're finding volume, we're just calculating how many of those cubes will fit inside the object. So we can measure the volume of an object by counting or calculating the number of cubic centimeters or meters, kilometers will fit inside an object. Again, none of these are drawn to scale, but let's say we wanted to measure the volume of the head of a match. We might use cubic millimeters. Whereas if we're looking at a dice, we might use cubic centimeters, and a washing machine is usually around a cubic meter. Let's pause for a moment and talk about rectangular prisms. We get two pieces of information from the name, rectangular and prism. So we understand that there's probably going to be some rectangles on this shape. And prism, meaning the base and the height are the same shape. A pyramid is when you have a base and then it meets at a point, but the prism's when the base and the top is exactly the same shape. And we're going to guess that it's going to be a rectangle. A rectangular prism has 6 faces, 8 vertices, and 12 edges. And we can see from this picture that it's a rectangle, and then other rectangles creating the height on the side to make it a box. A rectangular prism is made up of layers of cubes. Each layer has the same rectangular shape. Which means there's the same amount of cubes in each layer. So what we could do, like when we did area, is we could count the number of cubes on each layer. Or, because we know that repeating the layers multiple times, we can just multiply. We can just count the number of cubes in one layer. But we know how to do that because that's basically area. So hopefully now you're starting to think of what your formula for the volume of a rectangular prism could be. So because we know the number of cubes that is showing on the top face of our shape is going to be the same as the bottom, we can use repeated addition or multiplication. And because that top shape is a rectangle, we know the formula for figuring out the area of that top layer. We can remember that that is length times width. So I'm going to write length times width. That's to find the top layer. We then want to multiply that top layer by however many layers there are underneath, which is called its height. So we're going to take that answer and multiply by h to get those other layers in our volume. And of course, I'm not writing A because A means area. Instead, I'm going to write V equals length times width times height. So let's check. Is that the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism? It is. We are correct. Length times width times height. Let's have a go at finding the volume of a rectangular prism. Here I have one. So the first step is always to write the formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Now I just need to replace my pronumerals with its value. What is the length? Well, here I have the length of 8 centimeters. The width here of this base shape is 3. So I can see there's a rectangle 8 by 3. Now I need to think of the layers and multiply by its height, which is 4 centimeters. They're all centimeters, so I didn't need to convert anything. Now I have to figure out 8 times 3 times 4. I'm going to go 8 and then 3 times 4 is 12. 8 times 12 is 96 and it's cubic centimeters. So I need to write that little 3. Now the way I remember that is because I multiplied 3 numbers together. 3 numbers together means I have the little cube, which means I need to write the little 3 to represent cubic centimeters. You have a go at finding the volume of this rectangular prism. Let's check your answers. First step, write your formula. V equals length times width times height. My length is 6 centimeters. My width is 4 centimeters. And my height is 2 centimeters. 6 times 4 is 24 times 2. 24 times 2 is 48. If you can do that in one step, you're welcome to. Now my units. I'm going cubic centimeters, remembering my little 3. I hope now you can use your formula to find the volume of rectangular prisms.